My name is John Passfield, and I'm going to read from my novel, John Passfield's Saturday Morning. The title of this reading will be Saturday Morning, Video 7, The News as Imagery, the News of the Day. Here's the cover. John Passfield, Saturday Morning, my future wife and I, and our little car, Austin Healey Sprite, 1960. So the top, John Passfield, is the main character, myself at 21. The bottom, John Passfield, is me, the author. I wrote it a few years ago. I'm 76 as I read this now. Here's the summary on the back, too. The setup of the whole novel is this. A 21-year-old would-be writer, John Passfield, spends his last few months as a garbage collector on the streets of his hometown, St. Thomas, Ontario, Canada, in the summer of Canada's centennial year, 1967. As he works, he compares the imagery of his own life so far and of his upcoming marriage and pending career as a high school teacher to the imagery of the great books that he's reading, all while in pursuit of building the perfect load of garbage. So the main character of this novel, myself at 21, is working for the summer as a garbage man. He's taking the discarded refuse of people's lives and building a load in the back of an open truck, which will be taken to the dump, where it will be squashed by a bulldozer and buried. As he builds the load of garbage, he imagines a news program as a layer of imagery in his mind. So he's working in the back of a garbage truck emptying pails of garbage, but he's daydreaming about a news broadcast. The newscast is imaginary as it rotates three sources of information. The events of the nation's capital, legitimate news. The events in the main character's hometown on Centennial Day, legitimate news. And the events in his own family. Well, what's the definition of news and who decides what's news? I will read the news image arc that is presented in the novel. It has 16 image units, one for each chapter in the novel. So 16 chapters. Each chapter has about 55 image units. So 16 chapters times 55 images. I can't do math, but that's a lot of images. Only one in each chapter, 16 in the whole book, are about this imaginary newscast. Let's have a look. Page 6 is where we start. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Greetings from all of us here at the CBC, that's Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. Good evening to you all on this day of celebration. It was exactly 100 years ago today that Canada became an independent nation. And now for the 11 o'clock evening news. Then we go to page 14 for another installment. Parliament Hill was the backdrop today for a high-profile ceremony which included the participation of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. The ceremony was well attended by Canadians who left their homes all across the country in order to be here on this historic day. There were dignitaries on Parliament Hill representing every province and territory and many of the varied peoples who are proud to call Canada their home and native land. There was a feeling of camaraderie as people mingled and chatted and exchanged thoughts about this nation that we all call home. The weather couldn't have been more cooperative as the sun shone on the Peace Tower on this fair day. Well, we move on. Page 24, I'll find here. Here's another segment of the nightly news. The Passfield family of Oak Street, St. Thomas, Ontario, Canada, consists of 5 people. The father is Sir John Passfield. The mother is Gertrude Davies Passfield. The oldest boy is Robert Walter Passfield. The daughter, the middle sibling, is Eltrida Ann Passfield. And the youngest son is John Christopher Passfield. Well, it's an imaginary newscast. We don't usually hear about ourselves and watch ourselves on TV on the nightly news. So what's the point here in the mind of this main character? Let's go to page 24. Or was that 24? No, that was 24. Sorry, let's go to page 33 for the next segment. Sorry to get mixed up. St. Thomas, Ontario, Canada, is a town which was typical of every town in Canada today. It's a city which is located in the heart of southwestern Ontario, about halfway between Detroit and Buffalo. It is as Canadian as any town could possibly be. It has taken part in the celebration of this great land of ours for the past year. Today, the people of St. Thomas did themselves proud. Well, that's certainly legitimate news. A hometown celebrates Centennial Day. Let's go on to page 42 and see what else is on the news. The Passfield family arose early this morning, Saturday, July 1st, 1967, eager to enjoy this gorgeous day. Then they, or at least the mother, Gertrude, packed a picnic lunch. For supper, there would be hot dogs on the beach. The rest of the family gathered their bathing suits and towels and other beach paraphernalia. Then, when they were ready, they all got in the family car and drove to Port Stanley. Their Uncle Claude has a cottage on the beach. So what's important in our lives? We're certainly told that the news is important, and it's presented in stentorial voices, if that's the correct word. We're told it's important, and it's read as if it's important to us. What about our own family lives? Is that important? Is that news? Is that significant? The ceremony on Parliament Hill in Ottawa was a culmination of a year and more of special events which were designed to celebrate this country and what it means to all of us. It's almost a year ago since the Prime Minister lit the centennial flame that burns so brightly today. From Expo 67 to the Centennial Train, to the Voyager Canoe Pageant, to the totem carvings in British Columbia, to the fishing derbies in Newfoundland, there's been a constant pageant of events, like signaled bonfires all across this land. Every province, city, and town has been hosting special events from coast to coast to coast. People from many nations have chosen 1967 as the year to visit Canada. There was even in New York City a Canada Day. Wow, to be noticed by the Americans. Wouldn't that be special? On we go to page 60, leaping over 10 pages of other imagery, all of which impinge on this imaginary news broadcast. The Passfield family makes the news again. The Passfield family spent the day on the beach at Port Stanley. Port Stanley is on Lake Erie, about 20 miles across the lake from the USA. The water was warm and the sun shone all day. They swam and lay on towels and relaxed and talked all morning and all afternoon. All day there were people strolling along the beach. Page 69 is the next one. The mayor of St. Thomas and the council were in attendance for the celebration at City Hall. Every public building and many of the stores and houses were decorated with flags. There was a parade on Talbot Street with many patriotic floats and marching bands. There were concerts in all the parks around the town. All of St. Thomas was in attendance. The St. Thomas Times-Journal put out a centennial issue of the newspaper with pictures and captions of the events around town. So, significant news for sure. Then we go to page 78. There we are. The 4 Passfield family grandparents died within the first 100 years of life of this country, so they were not able to be at the cottage to celebrate with their children and grandchildren. Robert Edward Passfield died relatively young in a railway accident in 1917. His wife, Mary Park Passfield, died of old age in 1954. Walter Davies died at age 82 last year in 1966. His wife, Eltrida Kennett Passfield, died of breast cancer in 1950. So the people who aren't with you on a special occasion, is that news? Is that significant? Is that to be emphasized, to be considered, to be understood? What is news? What is significance? That was page 78. I'm going to find page 86 as we go on. As mentioned earlier, the Queen was in Ottawa and in attendance in Parliament Hill for the celebrations of this day. July the 1st, 1967. Every inch of Parliament Hill was packed as people stood shoulder to shoulder and sang, "Oh, Canada," at the tops of their lungs. The Mounties in their bright red uniforms were a highly visual symbol of what our nation has come to mean on the world stage. Faces were beaming with pride and confidence as they sang, "God Save the Queen." Hundreds of colored balloons were released and sailed up over the Peace Tower as Her Majesty cut the 30-foot-high birthday cake. Okay, going on to page 104. The culmination of the centennial celebrations in St. Thomas were held at Pinafore Park. That's where all the Sunday school and company picnics are always held. There was food and drink and games all through the morning and the afternoon as people strolled and basked in the summer sun. In the evening, some speeches were given and the pavilions had dancing bands. The late-night fireworks were mirrored in the waters of Pinafore Pond. Then we go to 114. As this newscast moves on through its various topics. In the evening, the Passfield family had a fire and roasted hot dogs on the beach at Port Stanley. Their Uncle Claude had collected driftwood in a pile. All up and down the water there were fires on the beach as the other cottagers and their friends sat and talked. They heard a noise when it got dark, a loud bang it sounded like, and they all looked towards the public beach. And there, bursting in the sky, was a huge display of centennial fireworks. All of Canada was celebrating the momentous event. Well, on we go. 122 gives us another segment of the news. It was a day of celebration. All contention and animosity were put aside for at least one day. The feeling in this land was one of harmony for all and for everyone. Happy birthday to all of Canada. We are so privileged to call Canada our home. And then just a few more segments of this newscast. The Passfield family packed up their things in Port Stanley and said goodbye to their Uncle Claude and put their wet towels and bathing suits and picnic basket in the car. As they drove home on the edge of St. Thomas, they could see the fireworks bursting in the sky over Pinafore Park. The whole family felt the excitement of the occasion, the anniversary of the day on which Canada became an independent nation. They arrived home late in the evening, just in time to watch the CBC Evening News. And lastly, page 140. And that is the news for this evening. We feel proud and privileged to be invited into your home. Indeed, it has been a very special occasion. No doubt this has been a very historic day. Thank you for tuning in to the CBC Evening News. Well, an imaginary newscast, predictable, the national news, especially on a special day like the centennial of Canada's birth. News about the hometown, a local newspaper, local television station would cover that. News about your family, like how important is that? Here's a note that I wrote. What is interesting about this mental exercise is that the main character imagines the news report as an interlayered report of 3 sources of information, all of which are happening on the same day. Now 5 days passed. That was a holiday. This is a garbage collecting day. The day of the celebration of the centennial of Canada. He imagines a news report on the events in the nation's capital, Ottawa, in his hometown, St. Thomas, and in his own family. The question is, what is the main character trying to figure out in turning 3 sources of information into one imaginary newscast? What is the one to do with the other? What has each of the 3 to do with the other 2? Are they held together merely because they're all happening on the same day, in the same country? Or are they all held together because they have a layer of meaning which transcends the surface connections of the same day, same event, same country? These events are all information about Canada, but are these events information which can be turned into imagery? Imagery is that which can be interpreted. Imagery is that which interprets other information and gives it significance. And if so, is imagery a language which transcends barriers? Personal barriers, social barriers, national barriers, about all people, in all times, in the past, present, and future. What is it that the main character is trying to figure out as he casts his mental net over the recent experience of his family, his town, and his country in an attempt to turn the information of these experiences into imagery? Is it fair to say that the task of every thinking person is to examine the information of his or her immediate experience in search of significant information, information which lends itself to imagery of interpretation, not only of the self and the society, but also of the lives of all people, in all situations, at all times? And if so, is it not the task of every writer to create a form of literature in which this process, this mental process, can best be expressed? Well, the novel, just holding it up again for a second, is John Passfield's Saturday Morning, a novel by John Passfield. It's available on Amazon with some information there. It's available at my publisher's website, rocksmillspress.com, rocksmillspress.com. More information there. More information at my website, johnpassfield, all one word.ca. A planning notebook, just click on the icon and it's there, how I planned and wrote the novel. A journal of reflection. What have I accomplished in writing this novel? Where do I go from here? In future novels, just click on the icon, yours to read for free. Lastly, I'll simply say, thank you for watching this video.